All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So, hello to Facebook. Hello to YouTube if you're watching the replay video of this later in the week. Welcome. This is episode 141 of the weekly Monday night Facebook Live What Am I Doing Hangout. If you don't know what this is, every Monday night, just about every Monday night at around 8 p.m. Eastern time, I jump on here and just say hello, catch up with you guys, see what's going on. I give you guys updates on books I'm reading, movies and TV shows that I'm watching. And then, of course, I give you all of the updates, all the juice in terms of what I'm working on. So whether that be writing, video, podcast, anything at all, I give you all the updates on that, keep you guys in the loop. Share announcements with you guys. And tonight I've got like two really interesting things that we'll talk about at the end briefly. One I promised you I would tell you when I hit a certain milestone, and then the other something that I teased a little bit yesterday with a video about something coming up with Amazon. So we'll go ahead and jump into all of the stuff. Okay, so let's start with the first category. What am I reading? So I mentioned last week that I was reading Hummingbird Salamander by Jeff Vandermeer. He wrote the Southern Reach trilogy. This is his newest book that's kind of like a mystery thriller. I am 50% through it, like almost exactly 50% according to my Kindle. And I am enjoying this book, but I mentioned this last week. Jeff Vandermeer's writing is very difficult to read at times. I can't even explain it. If you haven't read a Jeff Vandermeer book, I don't know how to even explain his writing style, but it's definitely different, definitely unique, and you have to pay attention. And I know there was, I think, at least one or two people that on here with us that were reading some of Jeff's books and kind of shared a similar sentiment. Like, you have to really focus when you're reading them. But I am enjoying the story. It's very interesting. I'm not in love with the whole thing as an entire package, but I am going to finish it. I'm enjoying it enough to keep reading, but it's not exactly a page turner. There's page turning moments, but there's some stuff in between that kind of slows the pace down just a little bit. But I think that's just kind of the pace that he usually goes with in general. It's not a bad thing. It's just definitely a different flavor of writing. But I'm going to finish that up, and I'm not sure what's going to be next. I'll have to just wait and see, and I'll tell you guys next week, assuming that I finish this book by then. Hello, Kim. Good to see you. Hello, Susan. Ivana. Good to see you. Hello, Mary. All right, so that is it for what I'm reading, and then let's go down to what I'm watching. I mentioned last week that Jason and I had watched a movie called Violation that was on Shudder, a very graphic and disturbing movie, very in-your-face, explicit. We did record our podcast episode on that film, and that went live yesterday on all the podcast platforms if you guys want to check that out. It was an interesting conversation because there was some subject matter in this movie that Jason and I really weren't sure how to handle, or if we were really equipped to even try to handle it and talk about it. So it was an interesting conversation, and it was an interesting one to edit as well, because there was a lot of dead space sometimes in the original recording where he and I were just kind of thinking and looking at each other, like, kind of unpacking it. So that did just go live. That's on my Hallowed Horror podcast. I then also watched Mortal Kombat on HBO, which is a new movie that it's also in the theaters as part of that whole Warner Brothers HBO kind of like collaboration that they've been doing for new theatrical releases for 2021. If you don't know what Mortal Kombat is, it was a fighting game from the 90s, a video game from the 90s, and then I think they're still making them. They're still making new versions of them. But I used to love it as a kid. It was one of those games that was like really kind of parents didn't like it when they first came out because it was very violent and bloody and stuff like that. And my own father actually hated it and wouldn't let me play it in the house often. But I loved it as a kid. I played it growing up, played it in the arcades, and there was an original movie that came out, I think, also in the mid to late 90s. And it was not very good. This one was a lot of fun. If you're not a fan of the game, you won't like this movie at all, but there's a lot of fan service in this movie for people that grew up playing the game. So it was a lot of fun. That's on HBO. Obviously not going to win any Oscars. It was completely ridiculous. It's based on a video game. I mean, come on. But I enjoyed it. I also watched the first episode of a show called Made for Love on HBO, which is kind of a science fiction-y comedy action drama series. It's starring Kristen Milioti, who forever in my mind is just going to be known as the mother from How I Met Your Mother, that long-running sitcom that went off the air a few years ago. I watched the first episode. It was interesting. I have not been compelled to go watch episode 2 yet, but I might down the road. It's just kind of like one of those shows I might watch as like a time killer when I have time to kill. And then last night I watched the Oscars. So that was interesting. I don't know if you guys watched the Oscars. I know the past couple weeks I've been telling you how I've been trying to watch a handful of the films that have been nominated for several of the awards. And the good news is the few that I watched seem to have won the majority of the awards. Nomadland, Minari, Soul, they won a lot of the awards. So I was kind of glad that I saw those. I definitely need to go watch The Father now, since Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for that, which, by the way, if you did watch the Oscars, they did a very weird format last night because of COVID and because of, limited attendance. But everybody kind of, I think, assumed that Chadwick Boseman was going to win Best Actor for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He passed away earlier this year from cancer, and because he'd been winning several of the other awards. And they actually restructured the end of the award ceremony, where they usually always wrap up the Oscars with the Best Picture award, obviously the big award. They changed it this year, and they did Best Picture like third from last, and then they did the Best Actress and Best Actor, kind of like setting up this big emotional hit to end. And then Anthony Hopkins won the award, and the show was just like over because he wasn't even there. He didn't even come. He's 82 years old. He wasn't coming to the Oscars. So it was kind of anticlimactic. But anyway, I'm not going to say I knew he was going to win, but just based off what I've seen of that movie trailer-wise and what I've been reading about, I figured there was a good chance he could win, and he did. So that was kind of interesting. I think it threw a lot of people for a loop. So Ann Baker, you're asking, where did I get the idea for the Lance series? That's a great question. Where did I get the idea? I knew I wanted to write a series. I had written 4 standalone novels up until this point, and I knew I was ready to start writing a series for a number of reasons, which I actually explained in a video a few weeks ago about becoming a full-time author. And I was trying to come up with a character that was kind of an amalgamation of a lot of things that I liked in fiction that I would read myself. And Lance is what the product of that was. And I only had the character when I started. I did not have any of the plot. I just kind of had the character to start with, at least what became Lance I had in my mind. So that's really where the idea came from. I don't know if that was a great answer, but it's the only one that I have right now. Let's see. What am I working on? Okay, so here's all kinds of stuff that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about first the video that I posted earlier today. I posted a Facebook video yesterday, and then the YouTube video went live today. Amazon has a brand new part of the Kindle store coming out that's going to be launching. All they've told us authors is it's going to be launching in the next couple months. We have no idea when that's going to be, but they are accepting new stories for this new platform. It is called Kindle Vella, Vella. And I'm not going to go into tons of detail here because I did make a full video about it if you want to go watch that. And by the way, links to everything that I'm talking about, from the podcast to my books to the YouTube stuff, it's all in the description of this video. So when you're done, or if you want to go scroll through it now, all the links are there. Because I did make a pretty in-depth video kind of talking about this. They're going to basically create a new section of the Kindle store that caters specifically to short fiction. It can be a long story overall, but they are publishing the stories into smaller chunks, almost like bite-sized snippets. They're calling them episodes. And basically, readers have the ability to buy tokens from Amazon, so like a digital currency. And they can buy bundles of tokens and then spend their tokens to unlock episodes that they want to read from whichever stories that they are choosing to read. And there's some other engagement in there in terms of likes and favorites and stuff like that. It's really interesting, very fascinating. I have a lot of high hopes for it for a number of reasons. Again, I talked about that in the video. But the biggest thing that I think this makes, one of the highlights that I want to touch on is I think it's a great way to normalize shorter works of fiction in the digital space, because that is an area that has struggled for a long time. I don't know why, but it seems to be that in the ebook world, and maybe even in like hard physical book world as well, unless a short story or a novella is part of a collection or an anthology, people don't read them. They're not spending money to read short stories. And even the ones that are like in Kindle Unlimited, it's like short stories just aren't something that readers are gravitating toward. And it may even just be something that Amazon's doing with their own algorithm, that readers aren't being presented with these options. But this new Kindle Vella is going to basically specialize in shorter fiction, or at least breaking fiction down into shorter bits and bytes. So that's really exciting. The number of tokens that a new episode will cost is just based on the word count of that episode. There's a lot more info to come. Again, I talk about this a little more in the video. That video is linked to this description, so check that out if you want. But if you have any comments or questions about this, go ahead and type them into Facebook right now. I'd love to know what your guys' opinions are. Let me know, whether it's now or after you watch the video, or wherever. Shoot me a Facebook message, leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment here. I'm very interested. I've only looked at it from the author perspective, and then also just kind of from my own brain as a reader. I'd love to know what you guys think. I also mentioned in the video, I think this is going to be really big for younger readers, like your young adult age readers, that generation that has grown up on a smartphone and on a tablet, because it so mimics microtransactions and in-app purchases that they're already used to in all these apps that they're using. I think it's going to bring in a bunch of readers that maybe have never even bought an ebook before, because it's just kind of like matching up with the way that they already use technology. So I'm very interested in this. I do have an idea for something that I want to write and publish on Vella. I'm not going to say anything more about that because I have to do it. But I think you guys will like it if I pull it off. So that is Kindle Vella. Please go check out that video if you haven't already. I'd love to know what you think. Okay, so now here's kind of like the big reveal that I was promising you guys. Last week, I mentioned to you that as soon as I hit the 50,000 word mark in my current novel that I'm working on, that I would finally announce the main character of this book. Because if you've been following me for the past few weeks, or even months actually, you will know that this next book that I'm working on, the one that I'm currently working on, that will be the next one that I publish. The main character is not Lance Brody. It's not the 7th Lance Brody novel. There will be a 7th Lance Brody novel. I just have not written it yet. It is coming after I write this one, and I'm going to go into more explanation down the road as to why I switched things up a little bit. But I told you I would tell you who the main character was. It's not Lance, but this story does take place in the Lance Brody universe. The main character is a main character that you have met and known. I guess at this point I should mention that if you have not read all of the Lance Brody books, or at least have not read Dark Woods, you maybe don't want to hear this yet. So maybe you want to jump off now. If you don't mind a little bit, this is not a massive spoiler, but it could potentially, ruin something if you haven't caught up with the Lance books yet. But anyways, Lorraine says drum roll. Exactly. I can't do a drum roll, otherwise I would. Actually, I could probably do a drum roll on my soundboard here, but I'm not going to try to figure that out right now. The character for this upcoming book, and potentially the start of a new series that will run alongside the Lance Brody series, is Alexa Shiflett from the Lance Brody universe. Alexa was the young girl that we met, that Lance and subsequently, or actually Quentin and subsequently Lance, worked to help out of her very bad situation in Dark Vacancy. She was 12 years old at the time. She comes back at the end of the book, and she plays a fairly large role in Dark Woods, which was the 5th Lance Brody book. At the end of Dark Woods, she goes off on her own with her new companion, Barlow, and kind of has this new outlook and this new future that she wants to try to obtain. And then we had Dark Holiday with Lance and Leah, and now we are going to catch up with Alexa, and we're going to see what she's up to and see what kind of trouble she can get in and what's going to happen with her. So I'm really excited. This is going to be a book that is going to be more of your private eye kind of mystery thriller, more traditional crime novel. It's not going to be supernatural. That will remain part of Lance's world. Alexa has no supernatural abilities. You guys know that. But there is definitely some sprinkling of Lance's influence and the world that he lives in the book. So fans of the Lance series will hopefully enjoy this, and they will pick up on some of these subtle nuances. And if you've never read a Lance book, I am fairly confident that you can read the Alexa series and you will be completely satisfied and not miss out on anything by not knowing who Lance is. So I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun to write. I will talk more about that down the road as the book gets closer to being released, once I have a cover and once I have the title and all that. So I'm really excited. It's been a lot of fun to write. Not only have I started creating this other world for Alexa and Barlow. I love Barlow. There's another character that I've created that's going to kind of be a prominent figure in this series as well. I have a backstory that is very fun for this person. Anyway, so there you have it. Alexa Shiflett, she is the new main character for the series coming up, and I'm excited for you guys to read it. I hope that you do like it, but more to come on that. By the way, I've not hit 50,000 words. I have hit 49,822, but I figured I was close enough that I wouldn't make you guys wait a whole nother week. So you're welcome. That's it. That's all I got. I am making good progress on that book. And I'm excited to get it wrapped up, and equally excited to jump back into Lance and work on book 7 of that. So that's it. Looks like some of you guys, very exciting, cool, looking forward to reading this. I was thinking Leah. Yeah, I for a while there, and that's an interesting point you make. There was a period of time a few books ago when I wasn't sure how quickly Lance and Leah's paths would cross again, when they would reunite. I always knew they would reunite. I didn't know when it would happen. There was a period of time where I actually thought about writing a series with Leah, kind of having her, when she makes that decision to leave West Haven and go off on her own, and the way the story ended up working out, she left to go meet up with Lance. I initially thought maybe she would leave and she would spend some time out on her own and kind of do some of the things that I think ultimately I'm going to have Alexa do, kind of more of the stumbling, kind of like Lance does, kind of stumble into situations that need her help. But anyway, I don't want to spoil any more about what I have planned with Alexa, but I do think you guys will enjoy it, hopefully. But that's that's interesting, Andy, that you thought Leah, because I almost did that a few years ago. Anyway, but ultimately Lance and Leah, they belong together, and I think it's going to be way more fun to have them together. Anyway, that's it, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you for watching on Facebook or on YouTube, whichever platform you're on. I appreciate the support. As always, it's always fun chatting with you guys. I love seeing what you're up to, love getting your reactions and opinions on things. So thank you very much. I will wrap this up the same way I always wrap these up. Thanks for your support. If you have read any of my books and you want to do me a huge favor, if you could jump over to Amazon, if you get a few free moments, and just leave a review saying you like the book. Reviews go a long way in helping authors. Don't just do it for me. Do it for anybody that you read. I promise you they will appreciate it. That's it. Thanks again. And all things considered, we'll be back next Monday and we'll do it all over again. Have a great night, great week. We'll see you soon. Bye.